Before the first symbols were carved into stone, before language learned how to trap memory inside marks and lines, there was an age that left no records, only scars. An age so distant that history refuses to acknowledge it, yet so influential that its echoes still shape who we are today. This is the forgotten age before written history. A chapter of humanity erased not by censorship, but by time itself. Welcome back to World Mysteries. Tonight, I want you to step beyond textbooks, beyond timelines, beyond the comforting illusion that history is complete. Because what we call human history is little more than the final page of a book whose beginning has been torn out. And once you realize how much is missing, you may begin to wonder whether we are the first advanced civilization on this planet or merely the latest. Modern historians trace civilization back roughly 5,000 years to the first known writing systems in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Writing, we are told, marks the beginning of history. Everything before it is labeled prehistory, a vague and shadowy time populated by simple hunter-gatherers struggling for survival. But this definition hides a dangerous assumption that what was not written down did not matter, did not advance, did not endure. Anatomically modern humans have existed for at least 300,000 years. For more than 95% of our species' existence, we lived without writing. That alone should trouble us. Are we truly meant to believe that intelligent, curious, adaptive beings spent hundreds of thousands of years doing nothing but wandering aimlessly, only to suddenly invent agriculture, mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and social hierarchy almost overnight? History does not progress that way. Across the world, there are ancient structures that defy the narrative of gradual development. Massive stone monuments, built with precision that rivals modern engineering. Blocks weighing tens or even hundreds of tons, cut with uncanny accuracy and fitted together so tightly that not even a blade can slip between them. These are not crude experiments. They are the work of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Even more unsettling is the fact that many later civilizations appeared to inherit these sites rather than create them. They repaired them, repurposed them, and worshipped them, but could not replicate them. In some cases, newer structures are visibly inferior to the older foundations beneath them, as if knowledge had degraded over time instead of improving. This suggests an uncomfortable possibility, that the oldest works were created by a culture far older than we acknowledge, one whose technological methods were lost rather than surpassed. Now consider the world as it existed during the last ice age. Sea levels were hundreds of feet lower than they are today. Vast coastal plains stretched where oceans now dominate. These regions would have been ideal for early human settlement, rich in resources and stable climates. And yet, when the ice age ended, rising seas swallowed these lands whole. If an advanced human civilization existed along those ancient coastlines, it would now lie beneath the waves erased from easy discovery. Dismissed as impossible, its remains buried under sediment and silence. We search the deserts and jungles for lost civilizations, but rarely look to the ocean floors where the earliest chapters may be hiding. This is where myth enters the story. Nearly every ancient culture speaks of a great catastrophe, a flood, a fire from the sky, a sudden destruction that wiped out an earlier world. These stories are found in civilizations separated by oceans and millennia, yet they share striking similarities. A time before the disaster, a warning ignored. A small group of survivors who carry fragments of knowledge into a broken future. We often dismiss these stories as symbolic, moral tales meant to teach humility or obedience. But myths are not invented in a vacuum. They are memories reshaped by time. When a civilization collapses, its science does not vanish instantly. It degrades. Complex explanations become stories. Technical knowledge becomes ritual. Survivors tell their children what they remember, and each generation loses a little more clarity until only allegory remains. What if the flood myths are not metaphors, but distorted recollections of a real global event? An abrupt climate shift, a comet impact, or a rapid rise in sea levels that destroyed a previous age of humanity. Science itself acknowledges that such events have happened. The end of the last ice age was not gentle. Temperatures spiked, ice sheets collapsed, oceans rose at terrifying speeds. Entire ecosystems vanished. Human populations were pushed to the brink of extinction. Genetic evidence suggests that at several points in our past, humanity was reduced to a dangerously small number of survivors. And when survival becomes the only goal, culture is the first casualty. Imagine a world-ending catastrophe that wipes out cities, tools, and teachers in a single generation. The survivors are scattered, traumatized, and struggling to endure. They remember fragments of the old world, how things once worked, what once existed, but lacked the means to preserve that knowledge. Over time, those memories transform into legends of gods, golden ages, and fallen heavens. This could explain why ancient texts across the globe speak of beings who descended from the sky to teach humanity agriculture, architecture, and law. Perhaps they were not gods at all. Perhaps they were survivors of a forgotten age, elevated to divine status by people who no longer understood the origin of their knowledge. It may also explain why civilization seems to restart rather than begin. Agriculture appears suddenly, astronomy emerges fully formed, monumental architecture arrives without a clear trial phase. It is as if humanity is remembering rather than inventing, rebuilding rather than discovering. And then there is the most unsettling idea of all. What if the forgotten age was not destroyed by nature alone? What if it collapsed because of its own choices? Environmental exhaustion, technological overreach, internal conflict, patterns that feel disturbingly familiar to our modern world. If that civilization existed, its greatest legacy may not be its monuments, but its warning. History, in this view, is not a straight line of progress. It is a cycle. Civilizations rise. They expand. They reach heights that feel permanent. And then something breaks, sometimes suddenly, sometimes slowly. When the collapse is severe enough, memory itself is erased. The survivors start again, unaware that they are walking the ruins of their own past. This would mean that we are not unique. We are not the first to stand at the edge of immense power. We are not the first to believe that our knowledge will last forever. And we may not be the first to underestimate how fragile civilization truly is. The forgotten age before written history may be invisible to our timelines, but it is not absent from our world. It lingers in myths, in anomalies, in unanswered questions that refuse to go away. It lives in our fascination with lost cities and forbidden knowledge. And perhaps, most importantly, it lives in our fear that progress is not permanent. Because if an advanced human civilization could rise, thrive, and vanish so completely that only whispers remain, then so could ours. And that brings us to the present moment. We record everything. We store data in clouds and satellites. We believe we have finally conquered forgetfulness. But writing once promised the same thing. So did stone. So did memory itself. And yet, here we are, staring into a past that refuses to speak clearly. Before we end tonight, I want to leave you with a question, not about the past, but about the future. If another civilization were to uncover the remains of our world thousands of years from now, what story would they tell about us? Would they see wisdom or warning? If this journey into the forgotten age stirred something in you, let us know in the comments. Do you believe there was an advanced chapter of humanity before written history? Or do you think our story truly begins where the records start? And if you're ready to keep exploring the mysteries buried beneath time, make sure you subscribe to World Mysteries. Because the greatest secrets of humanity may not be ahead of us, but behind us, waiting to be remembered.